work very hard and researchers continue slog, but do the opinion makers and the decision makers rely on you, or are they reading you? And who are the decision makers? For example, the parliament is the decision maker. Very small percentage of members of parliament read what you write. I am very glad that you mentioned the foreign minister. In fact, we've had a lot of discussions with the foreign minister, and his basic instinct also was in the same direction, and mine too, that I mentioned to him that you can, the foreign ministry itself, and Azad Sahab, you were a member of the foreign ministry, सब 30 मार खान होते हैं ministry के अंदर. Nobody needs any help. Nobody needs any ideas. We have all the ideas. Why do we have to look outside? Only who does look outside is the researcher himself, because his training is to look outside and look for ideas. But the experts sitting in government everywhere, not in Pakistan only, everywhere, don't need a lot of input. But still, that's the gap I want to identify, and I've been trying to overcome that. And I've been trying to involve universities into this also, that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other ministries and other ministers can task a lot of research out to the universities for their students to pick up and to do research which is relevant and which reaches the corridors of power. Now, having said this, that it is very essential. A few days ago, and of course your session was about peace, and it's been difficult in my life to think about it, whether it's an illusion, what we are looking for, or it is, if not an illusion, it is elusive, an elusive dream. We are trying to grab onto it. And my experience, therefore, let me lay it down bare in front of you, because you are the people who will understand what I am saying. Maybe it's good that I am speaking in English. A lot of people will not understand it outside, but I can share it with you. I have decreasing confidence in humanity over life. I was very confident. I went to the US in 73, for example, and 73 to 75 I did my first master's in Michigan. And I was very impressed by the fact that this is a country which has made a mistake in Vietnam, and it has tremendous think tanks, and it has the courtesy between researchers which is remarkable, that I have an opinion, but your opinion is also based on solid ground. That courtesy among research people, among people who are communicating communicating higher ideas is very important. So I thought this is the best place to be. But then there is a disappointment in humanity. What disappointment? And I'll pinpoint that out. And I spoke at the Brookings Institute, US Institute of Peace on this also, with Robin Raphael and a number of other guests, and I presented this scenario before them also. So what happened is that a generation learns and the next forgets. And throughout human history, I have not seen much of a change. I am sorry. Not much of a change. A generation learns, the next generation forgets. What was learnt in Vietnam was forgotten, and there was a chest beating for some time that, see, we made a mistake in Vietnam, the Soviets will learn from Afghanistan. And see, we have learned. Didn't happen like that. There were new ventures, there were new encroachments into peaceful areas, and it disappoints me further that the whole world is taken for a fool also at the same time. Why? Because Europe, after the 30 years war and 100 years war, people decided to accept the Westphalian order, that we must control the power of the gun and the nation state. And from that emerged, after a few wars, from that there emerged the League of Nations and the concept of a nation state, where it was decided that the arms can be carried only by the state itself and not by individuals. So that was the determination, trying to manage a force, trying to manage arms as an issue of conflict. So the focus came away from the human mind to an object, which is fine, because that's what we are told these days, that if you want to communicate well, take out the issue away from personalities and bring it down to an issue. So fine, that was a good judgment, that it was taken away from human minds and brought down to management of arms. And what did Europe learn? Europe learned that there is misery in war. Misery. Europe was devastated by the fate of the children, and therefore UNESCO, the United Nations institutions subsequently were formed in 1947, I think, for the child, because they had seen the misery. So all this was the order inherited from the Westphalian order, but then I have seen the same thing continue to happen, and by the leaders of the world, by the leaders who had all the information, think tanks, which anybody could afford. All opinion generated not by one mind but by hundreds and thousands of minds. Imagine my disappointment with think tanks, therefore, also. If the United States has all the input from these brilliant minds, has made so much success in the world, how can these minds encourage the United States to go into Afghanistan and stay in Afghanistan for 20 years and spend $2.3 trillion in Afghanistan? Must be very smart minds. Something is missing in this whole scenario. Like I said, the concept was removed from the arms, from the human minds to the arms. So I want to drag it back to the human mind. And that's what was my thesis, if you can call it a thesis, when I talked at the United States Institute of Peace. What is the human mind like? What are you seeing happen today? The human mind is a testosterone-driven, DNA modified for 10,000 years, resistant to, susceptible to his or her hormones. Rationality finally gets to decide with the mix of hormones and the mix of emotions which come around with that. And what are the emotions which make decisions then? It's not a super intelligence or an artificial intelligence or a Tesla car which is making decisions. It's the human minds. So the human mind has three basic tenets which make you and me. One is love, and it is across all nations on earth, all people. If you see a lovely child here making innocent gestures, all of us will love those gestures. It goes across nations. Love for a woman, love for a man, love for your children, love for your parents. This is a trait of the human mind which is there, hardwired into us. The other is hatred, and it is equally strong. Hatred of the other person. And how that gets interpreted? By our clumsy means of communication. Within our families you can see that. Within your families, you don't have